have you guys seen what's going on with this Quiet on Set documentary on One? But essentially, it is a documentary highlighting and shining a spotlight on the sexual abuse of kids on Nickelodeon sets, dude. I don't know how many of you guys understand like Nickelodeon and what that is here in America, but it was essentially children's programming, still is. Bunch of producers, executives, production assistants, all entangled in a sexual abuse, pedophilia allegations, and actual confirmation ring during the Nickelodeon kind of arc in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's fucking wild, some of the shit I heard just going through on Twitter last night. Again, I don't even have the thing it's on. It's on Max, I think. I don't even have Max, so I haven't even watched the whole thing. But dude, it is insane. We're talking Amanda Bynes. And granted, we all knew, right? We all knew that child stars that grow up in Hollyweird or around Hollyweird are pretty much the test subjects for all of these fucking weirdos in Hollywood. And it's disgusting, it's awful, but now it's coming to light more and more. Stuff that like someone else said, we already kind of heard, but now we're getting names attached to it. When you go back and watch shows like All That, right? That was a big show on Nickelodeon. The Amanda Show, right? Another one, massive show. Some of the segments they had these kids doing, I don't even know if I can show some of it on Twitch. Putting off your Hollywood dreams. No, I know, I've been known about Hollyweird. I think anybody that has even the modicum of experience in modeling, acting, you know that shit is weird over there. This is the first time I think that we've actually heard from one of, and now multiple, victims of this stuff, and the main guy being Drake Bell from Drake and Josh. It's so fucking crazy. Apparently he was abused when he was 15 by this guy, somebody Peck, Brian Peck. Let me just pull up some of this stuff that I can show you, because some of it's kind of graphic, dude, because they got some of the child actors to come back and talk about their experience on some of the shows and how closely tied to bro. I don't even like highlighting this stuff, but look at this, dude. This is Amanda Bynes now. Now, granted, no one's here to judge the way she looks, but this was not the way she used to look. They fucked her up heavy. And again, I don't know what happened specifically to Amanda. It's nuts, dude, how much these people will just destroy your life. Dan Snider is also super weird. He doesn't get a pass. In fact, he might be one of the biggest people that's at some point gonna have to answer for all of this, because the people under his employment, the way he acted around those people, the fostering of the environment, mingling with adults that in some cases turned out to be actual documented, confirmed, sentenced, jailed pedophiles is alarming, dude. Here is this from Drake Bell. They're talking about, I think this is like toward the end of one of the episodes where they're talking about one of the guys that got caught in Brian Peck and who the actual person that he assaulted was.
Happened. I have no idea.
Well, it wasn't dealing with anybody on the show.
You guys can barely hear it.
Right? It was a child actor.
On one of our shows.
Yes.
Crazy. So this is the big reveal that Drake Bell was the one being abused on one of the shows, the star of one of their shows, by this guy, Brian Peck. And what's so crazy about, oh man, they got this too, man. So again, here is, wait a minute, Diddy did a cameo on Snider's show on Nickelodeon. This was All of That. I think this was like the revamped All That. And these kids are like pouring sour milk on people, and here's P. Diddy speaking with the kids, which is obviously bad for reasons we already know. And the stories just keep going on, man. Like, you have people coming out talking about how Dan Snider was making inappropriate jokes, not only with the kids around, but women on his workforce.
There's one video of Ariana Grande making a joke about a potato.
Sometimes I wonder if you can get juice from a potato.
Did that air on Nickelodeon?
Come on.
Okay, yeah, I can't even show you guys that. The rest of that, I can't even show you. It's bad, bro. Granted, we've always heard stories. We've always heard them. But now this shit's coming to light. You have to think that this is going to just be a snowball that's starting to build here. I wonder how much more. I mean, there has to be. There has to be so much more than what's being aired on TV. Blame the parents too. I mean, yeah, to a degree, but also some of these kids, by the way, are I saw this was another interesting thing that I didn't really even know either, are filing to become emancipated minors. Amanda Bynes was one of them that her parents were like, no, you're not doing this. Like, we're your parents. You're 16. You're not going and you're not this adult yet. Like, none of this. And they're filing to become emancipated minors with the help of some of these people. Yeah, Brian Peck, Victor Salva, terrible people. The thing about Brian Peck too, the guy Brian Peck, they had this party, right? And I'm paraphrasing. If I get this wrong, I'm sorry. They had this party for one of the shows, and all the kids and the parents and everybody came over. One of the kids was like, you know, this Brian Peck guy, he was liked by everyone, the parents, the kids, whatever. And he's taken through and he's showing people to the house, and he has this one room that's dedicated to like comics and, you know, all this other stuff. And then there's one clown painting in, I think it was in the garage or something. There's a clown painting there, and it's like super out of place. And the kid walks up to it and he's looking at it, and I guess the Brian Peck guy comes up and he's like super excited to show the kid the painting. And on the back of the painting, there's a signature. It's like, to my good friend Brian from your friend John Wayne Gacy. Bro, this shit right here is fucking crazy. John Wayne Gacy is the guy that was like the clown serial killer that killed, I don't know how many, was it double digit young men and boys? He has a clown painting that was signed by John Wayne Gacy in his fucking garage, dude. And that's the guy that worked with kids, and he was proud of it. He had become like a pen pal with John Wayne Gacy while he was in prison. And everybody's looking at it like, oh, that's fucking weird. That's kind of where it ended. And again, I guess maybe it's like whatever, but bro, this stuff was nutty, man. There's so much more. I'm afraid to even look at some of this. This was on Nickelodeon. This was on national television. Like, some of these scenes that now, with the knowledge of what we know from this Quiet on the Set thing, I'm afraid to show you guys because I don't know how, one, if I'm even allowed to on Twitch, and two, how disgusting it is. I don't know what this is, but Quiet on the Set, absolutely heartbreaking to watch. Now, looking back at these shows, I know Drake Bell, Amanda Bynes just at the iceberg. It's going to be interesting, bro. If Ariana Grande comes out and says something, it's all done, bro. I saw Peck worked on Zach and Cody. Bro, he continued to work. He was still working up until, like, I think a couple of years ago. Oh, is this feet stuff? Is that what this is? It's just Ariana Grande like oh yeah, she's like messing with her toes and stuff. Oh yeah, and then there's the clip of Zoe 101 where Jamie Lynn Spears gets something like shot at her face. All bad, dude. All these motherfuckers are going to jail, I hope. And you know that these kids that are now adults know something about it. I know a lot of people are upset with Josh Peck for not saying anything. And I'm sure that all these kids have a story, man. And it's so sad to see. I didn't like to see this, man. I watched Neds Declassified, and I think there's a time and place for jokes and all that. But when the motherfuckers are coming out, like the day of, talking about their story and all that, and these people who, okay, great. The Neds Declassified cast did not have any issues on their show. That's awesome. Fantastic. But you can't be making jokes and stuff.
Daniel, we told you never to speak about that. Get back in your hole, Daniel, and give me your holes. Sorry, we shouldn't joke about this.
See what I'm saying? Like, it's funny because it didn't happen to you, right? It's a joke because it didn't happen to you. That shit right there is fucked up. You know what I'm saying? You can get away with making jokes about, like, growing up as a teen, you know, whatever, and your experience there, but when you're doing it at the expense of people that actually got messed up by this shit, that's fucked up, dude. Big time fucked up.
We really shouldn't.
Yeah, this is awful. Why are we doing this?
Because this is about us. Listen, our set was not like that.
That's fine.
And no, it's fucking awful. The Drake Bell shit is that's crazy to hear. That is fucked, man. And that never came out, which is really wild. Really wild.
Until he was talking about it.
Boop.
Boop.
Okay.
Oh, so y'all were in on it. Oh, God.
Damn.
Wow. I'm not talking about this anymore.
No.
Talking about this anymore.
No.
Guys, we can't joke like this. Jesus. Guys, we're sometimes humor helps us move through things, you know?
100%.
Shouldn't be live on TikTok, even after you say the shit, trying to walk it back and then continue to talk about it. Can't do it. So fucking fat L for the Neds Declassified gang. Yeah, Drake saw it and he responded to it, I think let me see if I can find the tweet. He said, Neds Declassless, this is wild, laugh it up guys, laugh it up, give me your holes, really. Yeah, bro, it's just something like the worst thing to joke about. Sexually abused, the worst thing. It's gonna be interesting to see, because again, Ariel said that, you know, you shouldn't blame kids that were involved or not involved in that time choosing whether they want to speak about it or not, of course. But it will be interesting to see who comes out in defense, because that's what I kind of read from the whole Neds Declassified thing, is like, oh, let's make a joke of it because on our end, you know, we were treated well, so we got to run some defense. I want to see how many people are going to come out and try to run defense for this shit. Yeah, I saw that James Marston was out here defending, like, kind of being a little on the defensive side of this.
Why don't you do this?
Yeah.
Why don't you think of the worst stuff that someone could do to somebody as a sexual assault, and that'll answer your question.
Turned her over, you know, the bank account. I turned her over all kinds of paperwork that she needed to be able to handle Drake's career. I said this to her in person. I said, but you never, ever leave Drake alone with Brian Peck, and you never let him be around him unsupervised, period, whatsoever. And Brian just absolutely tricked her.
Very, very quickly, Brian put himself in the position of what my dad was doing my whole life. My mom didn't want to drive to LA. She didn't like driving. So Brian would come and pick me up for auditions. I would end up staying the night because, well, I lived in Orange County and I would have auditions, and then it would be, you know, easier to drive me home the next day instead of driving me home and getting me home at midnight or whatever excuse, you know, he came up with. And he had pretty much worked his way into every aspect of my life. Everything.
See, this is the thing, dude. In this case, I'm assuming, I'm trying to put the dots together. The dad doesn't obviously live in Orange County, it seems like, at the time of this happening. And Drake's mom apparently does. And she doesn't want to drive to LA, or, you know, she has work, whatever. This is where the parents gotta get involved, man. If the dad says one thing you don't do is leave him unsupervised with that fucking weirdo that we know is a weirdo, and here he comes to and fro, picking the man up, taking him to audition, staying the night with him. What are we doing, mom? I live in Orange County. I get it. It's a sucky drive to go to LA and to come back. I get that. But it's better than this shit. I don't know how you get tricked into that, dude. I know that people rationalize things in their heads when they're in a phase of life that they never grew up in, and they want the best for their child. They want the greatest opportunities for their child, right? They want that. I couldn't imagine letting my child stay the night with an adult by themselves. I can't imagine that. If you aren't family, I can't imagine that. No, dude. Because it's easier? Get the fuck out of here.
I changed with Brian one morning, and I woke up to him. I just opened my eyes, I woke up, and he was sexually assaulting me.
Get the fuck out of here.
I froze and was in complete shock and had no idea what to do or how to react. I had no idea how to get out of the situation. You know, what am I gonna call my mom and be like, hey, this just happened, can you come pick me up? I'll just sit here and wait. I had no car, I didn't drive. I was 15 at this time.
Bro, shit like this just is so fucking infuriating. The shit that pisses me off about this is that the parents obviously have to live with that. But I was watching the little clips on Twitter last night, and I was looking at someone like Amanda Bynes, right? And even someone like Drake. How do you live with that? You know what I'm saying? Tragedies happen in life, right? And I always wonder how people mentally get through stuff like that. But this isn't a tragedy. This is just demonic. This is evil. This stuff is like an infection, because it isn't just him, man. It's not just him. You have to wonder how deep this thread really goes, because this thing is about to unravel. With this coming out, you would have to think that this shit is about to unravel. You think it stops with Nickelodeon? If this shit was happening on Nickelodeon, could you imagine what's happening over at the freaking Mickey Mouse house? So yeah, this is another part of this whole thing, is like child labor laws were just broken. Essentially, Nick was a sweatshop on some of these all that sets where these kids are working 12, 14-hour days. The sugar and coffee skit, apparently this kid talked about it and he was like, yeah, we're essentially getting drowned with sugar, pounds of sugar and coffee, multiple takes, multiple times, rehearsals, go-throughs. Like, kids are just getting destroyed for the comedic purpose of their producer, their director, whatever. There was another guy, two other guys that were on, I don't think it was All That or one of the Nickelodeon shows that got arrested, that did hard time in jail because of like actual pornography, like actual CP on their computers, taking baggies and stuffing them full of like mementos from the children on these shows and like writing their names on it and shit. It was, dude, it was crazy. Yeah, dude was emailing his junk. Bro, here's the Dan Snider interview. This is a guy that used to work on one of the shows on iCarly, I guess.
I really appreciate you reaching out and giving me the opportunity to talk to you about what we saw over the last 2 nights.
I'm really glad you're here because I believe this is important.
For sure.
We've got a lot of things to unpack.
I already hate this, by the way. This is the problem with these kind of little sit-down interviews. They knew this shit was going on. You knew it. And the fact that after all this stuff goes down, all the shit starts to hit the fan, now you want to do a sit-down interview. Now it's like, well, you know, this stuff is really serious. It wasn't serious for the last 20 years, though, was it? And we got actors interviewing producers. So this is going to all be scripted, and let's tie on some sort of emotion that we can try to make you look like a babyface here. They're going to try to babyface this fucking guy.
It was very difficult, me facing my past behaviors, some of which are embarrassing and that I regret, and I definitely owe some people a pretty strong apology.
Let's talk about the massages.
Okay.
Watching the content yesterday, it was disturbing.
It was wrong. It was wrong that I ever put anybody in that position. It was the wrong thing to do. I'd never do it today. I'm embarrassed that I did it then. I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation. And even additionally, I apologize to the people who were walking around Video Village or wherever they happened, because there were lots of people there who witnessed it who also may have felt uncomfortable.
They're talking about Dan Snider getting massages from women or whoever on set while he was doing, you know, the producing or whatever backstage. And then, you know, obviously some things that went over the line with some of those massages. I don't know, again, the full story on it, but they're obviously not addressing. He just said, oh, we'll talk about the massages. They're not saying in detail. And this is why this is such bullshit, like interview stuff. The interviewer should be like, bro, tell me about what so-and-so said. Here's the quote of what was said. She gave massage this way in front of this many people in this awkward situation. That's not what's happening. He just goes, oh, tell me about the massages. And the motherfucker's like, oh, I just want to apologize to everyone. When 20 years ago, or in the last 20 years, you ain't apologized to a single goddamn person. That's not what a man does, bro. Matter of fact, a man doesn't do the shit he did. But if he truly felt remorseful about it, that's one-to-one conversation. Not, hey, let me get this freaking puff piece interview.
Dan, talk to me about the writer's room. From what I saw, not cool.
No. And
say what was said, you pussy. What kind of interview is this? Not cool, bro. No, this is what was said about you. I need you to address these claims.
I don't mean to cut you off, but if I can cut right to the chase, let me just say, no writer should ever feel uncomfortable in any writer's room, ever, period, the end, no excuses. Most TV writers, comedy writers have been in writers' rooms, and they are aware that a lot of times there are inappropriate jokes made and inappropriate topics come up. But the fact that I participated in that, especially when I was leading the room, it embarrasses me. I shouldn't have done it. And I can tell you why it hurts really bad for me. I remember very clearly my early experiences, my first experiences in the entertainment business. I was green, I was scared, I was excited. It meant the world to me that I was getting those opportunities. And I went in and I got lucky because they were great. My first couple of experiences were fantastic. And the fact that I didn't pay that forward to every employee that walked through my door, it hurts my heart because I should have. And I wish I could go back and fix that.
It hurts his heart, man. It hurts his heart that he got caught doing some bullshit multiple times, continuously. And 20 years later, people finally went public with it. That hurts him a lot. If this shit did not come out, Dan Snider is not doing this interview. Dan Snider is not apologizing for anything. Dan Snider is not hurt by anything. You only hurt because you got caught, pussy. All this other shit about how much he hurt and how much he feels bad and how much he could... No, bro. Nah. Because you had 20 years to say some shit like that. You've been sitting here comfy. Till one of your other actors on one of your other shows came through and was like, let me throw softball questions. We're playing an adult league softball game. Fucking underhand toss. And let you get off your freaking emotional strife from the shit you did.
In the writer's room, there's no doubt that sometimes those jokes went beyond the pale and I said things that went too far or made practical jokes that went too far. And that was wrong. And that was because, you know, I was an inexperienced producer. I was immature. Wouldn't happen today, but I'm just really sorry it happened.
Yeah. Now, we know you've had a lot of success over 2 decades. Thousands of people have worked with you, for you.
Okay.
Let's speak directly to the people who did not have a good experience with you.
Okay, I would like to speak to those people because I hate that anybody worked for me and didn't have a good time.
Name the people. Name the examples. Fuck.
You know me. You've been on my sets. Look, I've had some employees that have worked for me for 10 years, some more than 20 years, who would work with me again, but not everybody. There's still a significant number that didn't have a great time working for me, so my batting average isn't nearly high enough in that area. And the way they wouldn't get the best of me is that I would let the pressure of doing 40 or even more episodes per year, I would let that pressure get to me, which a good boss should never, ever do.
Was there specific things that you were doing?
Sure. I would snap at people sometimes. I would be snarky when I could have given them a nicer answer. I would not give people the time that they needed. I would be in too big a hurry to get on to the next thing I had to do. And watching that show, it made me, there were so many times I wanted to.
He'd be fostering an entire show run committee production of sexual innuendo for a children's show. He would hide adult jokes in children's show. He would, in some cases, put himself into the adult jokes in children's shows as well. Is that not a part of the apology here? Not just the stress, not just the pressure, but the stuff that he willingly and wanted to do. The people he employed and stayed on good terms with. Like, what are we not going to talk? I mean, I know there's a lot more here, but let's get to the fucking chase here, dude.
Pick up a phone and call some of those people and say, I'm so sorry, and let's talk about it.
All this stuff is like, hey, I'm a bad boss because I yelled at people. All right, cool, you know, whatever you feel bad for there. Let's get to the weird shit, because that's what you really got to own up to, pussy.
I wish you'd had a better time, and I wish I could have shown you a better experience.
Yeah. Now, you've written hundreds of episodes. Thousands of jokes have been told.
Yeah.
But currently where we are, some people think that some of those jokes are inappropriate for children. What do you think of that?
All these jokes that you're speaking of, that the show covered over the past 2 nights, every one of those jokes was written for a kid audience because kids thought they were funny and only funny. Okay? Now,
bullshit. Most of the jokes on those shows are written for kids. The ones that stand out and the ones that get the side eye and the scrutiny are the ones that were written for Dan Snider, are the ones that were written for him to get a chuckle out of. And they stand out because they're not written for kids. That's why they stand out on a kid's show. It's very clear to differentiate between those two. What Ariana Grande was doing on those clips that I was scared to even show you guys, the Zoe 101 stuff, the other stuff on all of that. They had a kid called Captain Big Nose, and it looked like he had 2 penises on his shoulder, bruh. They had a kid that was like, I don't know, Captain Fetus or whatever, and it was essentially a naked kid with, you know, a little spandex on. This was all written with an innuendo.
We have some adults looking back at them 20 years later through their lens, and they're looking at them and they're saying, oh, you know, I don't think that's appropriate for a kid's show. And I have no problem with that. If that's how anyone feels, let's cut those jokes out of the show. Just like I would have done 20 years ago or 25 years ago. I cut it. I want my shows to be popular. I want everyone to like it. The more people who like the shows, the happier I am.
Yeah.
So if there's anything in a show that needs to be cut because it's upsetting somebody, let's cut it.
So I think it's big for you to say with your work, if it's viewed as that today, you don't have a problem.
Cut it. Cut it.
I mean, that's a solution.
The last thing I want to ever do.
You're telling me that no one had said this to Dan previously. In the show, they said parents were saying, I don't think this is appropriate. Not now, then. And now you want to say, well, yeah, just cut it. This isn't an apology. This is a rationalization.
Any content in a show that's going to upset my audience and make them want to turn off the TV. Why would I ever want to do that?
That makes sense. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of elaborate on something.
Okay.
The thought process from the series is you had the power to just write a joke, and no matter what, it's going on TV. You just had that type of power. Is that true?
The notion that I had the power to just produce whatever I wanted and have it air.
This is crazy. This is insane. Yeah, the leading questions here from the interviewer is hilarious. Like, so was it you that had autonomous control of everything? Or are you the only person that had, it's like, let me just go ahead and throw you this softball to have you explain how everybody else is the problem here, not you.
York.
So two coasts.
Two coasts
Okay.
of approval, yes. And by the way, approval at every stage, really.
Okay.
And I'm talking about wardrobe. I'm
So
talking
Dan,
about makeup,
how's life going?
sound, sets, dialogue, jokes, everything.
Now, when you say approval, these obviously that's a hierarchy, not your colleagues or
right.
people in the room. Okay.
No, not my colleagues. No, these are my bosses. Bosses, and then their bosses, and then their bosses. And they're approving all of this stuff.
Okay.
Okay? And we're also shooting it in front of all sorts of adults and caregivers and the set teacher and the families. Everybody's watching it. And if anybody had said anything, hey, we don't like that, that's not appropriate, then it would have been cut out.
Now, I'm gonna push back a little bit
Sure.
because the series painted you in this way.
Bro, the fact that he has to like, I just want to push back a little is crazy, son. This man he's in fear of pushing back. Who is afraid of this pussy? Let me do this interview. See how afraid someone is, dude.
I'm gonna push back a little bit
Sure.
because the series painted you in this way that
Painted
you were
you.
just the guy that was doing what he wanted, and people were afraid to confront you about things. So just humor me. Say
Bro,
that.
Bro, he said people are afraid to confront you about shit while you're over here using the Mickey Mouse voice. Humor me a little. Just want to push back a little. Get the fuck out of here.
That was the case. What would have been the ultimate way to?
Okay. If nobody on the set, if all of the dozens and dozens of adults that were on the set, if they didn't say anything, if my bosses said, if they insisted, you got to make a change here, you got to cut that, I had to do it. I had no choice.
Got it. Now this next one.
I would love to see someone put the fucking shit that was said on that show in front of Dan while he's saying this shit. And see all of those employees talk about the shit they went through and then have him explain exactly what he's saying. And see the fucking look on his face when he goes even more ghost white than his pale ass already is.
It kind of hit close to home. Being a new father, I wouldn't be opposed to my child being in the entertainment industry. It doesn't matter what age, yeah? Seeing some of those on-air dares, seeing it now from where you are now in your life, what do you think of that?
I think that some of the on-air dares went too far. I think they pushed the envelope too far. Not all of them, not most of them, but some did. Nickelodeon wanted to do their version of Fear Factor. At the time we were shooting All That, so I was tasked with doing these on-air dares with the All That cast. So we get with the writers and we...
That's already fucking wild. That Nickelodeon was like, yeah, we've seen Fear Factor. We've seen what bodily harm those adults put themselves through. And by the way, Nickelodeon doesn't get a pass here. I hope that no one is watching this and thinking Nickelodeon gets a pass. It's fuck Nickelodeon now too, by the way. It's double fingers to Nickelodeon, bro. These kids are sitting there in these little fucking pods waiting for their name to be chosen for some random occurrence for them to happen. They put peanut butter on one of the fucking kids, put peanut butter all over him, and then let dogs out to see what they would do.
Come up with all these ideas, and it's hard to do because we don't have the budget of Fear Factor, and we can't put the kids in dangerous situations like the adults are put in. So it was hard to come up with stuff. But we would come up with all these ideas of dares they could do. We would give them to the network, and they would say, tell us the ones that were okay.
Right.
Those are the ones we shot. Those are the ones that aired. At the time, I had no indication that any kid ever had a problem with them. But when I was watching the show over the past 2 nights,
this is the same guy that, again, in the show, just to push back a little bit, this is the same guy that alienated himself from his own fucking staff that would send his assistants to go talk to his associate producer, talk to this editor, talk to that editor. And I get it. You can't be everywhere at once. But there was no communication down the line. Let's say one of the parents decided, I don't want my kid rubbed in fucking peanut butter and having dogs lick him. That's going to go straight to Dan, or is it going to go to one of his cronies to go to Dan? There's 4 or 5 of those people that were like, we couldn't even talk to Dan. I got fired without Dan even talking to me. Known him for years. I just got let go. Someone told me pack my stuff up. It's over, bro. This man was like, anyone could have come and talked to me. No, if anybody would have said, fuck you.
I now know that there were kids who did have problems with the on-air dares. And it breaks my heart. And I'm so sorry. I am so sorry to any kid who ever had to do a dare or anything that they didn't want to do or weren't comfortable doing. We went out of our way to make sure they were safe and that everything was done properly. But if a kid was scared and didn't want to do it, kids shouldn't have had to do it.
Yeah.
Period, the end.
Right.
And if I had known at the time, I would have changed it on the spot.
Now, we also saw the
Bullshit.
series highlight 2 former writers viewers, 2 women, who spoke about a wage discrepancy. Now, I know that you don't divvy out salaries.
Well, you're correct. I have nothing to do with paying writers. I never have. I've never made a writer's deal. And of all the writers I've been in a writer's room with, I never even knew how much most of them were getting paid.
Yeah, but we saw these 2 women who were writers for you sharing one salary. How does that happen?
It's very simple. There's a common practice in television when hiring writers. If you have a spot for a new writer, sometimes you'll go to 2 writers and say, hey, if you 2 new writers for your first job are willing to share a salary, you can both have the job. I did another show where it was a male and a female writer, and they split a salary. So
And these are all first-time writers.
all first-time writers looking for their first gig.
Got it. Now, in the series,
It's not even damage
they also
control.
highlighted 2 black actors
Not
who
even
said
damage
that they felt overlooked. Now, I want to be clear. I'm never going to speak on anyone else's journey. Yeah? I can talk about my experience, how my experience was with you, what I saw prior to working with you. But again, I don't want to speak on anyone's journey. I saw you be honored for
Then he shouldn't be doing the interview. Plain and simple.
diversity in your work.
Yes, and the reason for that is diversity has always been very important to me in my shows. If you go back to the very first Nickelodeon show I ever made, that's very evident, as it is in the second one, and then the first.
Yeah, he worked with him. Of course he worked with him. That's why this interview is a bunch of fucking nothing. But when you say, I'm not going to speak on anyone else's experience, when those people already spoke on their experience, and you could literally quote them instead of acting as if you're speaking on their behalf. They already spoke on their behalf. Just use the quote. Boom.
Movie I ever made for Nickelodeon, which starred
So
Kenan and
easy.
Kel, and every show I did after that had a lead black actor in it. I'm very proud of that. It's very important to me. And not only am I proud
I hate the
that
interviewer
they were
now.
in my shows, I'm exceptionally proud of the achievements they've had beyond my shows, and they've gone on to bigger and better things, and that gives me a great sense of pride.
Well, something that really kind of bothered me was how they depicted your relationship with the cast.
Yeah, it bothered me too.
Yeah, just me being there, I knew the dynamic was trust. I understood that in situations where they may have had turmoil, whether it be with their families, whether it be other castmates, they came to you. Versus how they made.
Is he talking about the time where Amanda Bynes tried to file for legal emancipation and Dan helped her instead of staying out of the business of her and her family? Is that what he's talking about? And they got absolutely fucking destroyed in court because no 16-year-old should be a legal adult? Is that what he's talking about? They'd come to him?
You look. With that said, Amanda Bynes was brought up
Yeah,
in the
let's talk
series
about that shit.
and her emancipation and how you were involved in that. Can you talk to us about it a bit?
Sure. Amanda was between the ages of 16 and 17, and she wanted to
So she was 16.
get emancipated from her parents, which was a fairly common thing with successful young actors, at least at the time.
Sure.
Doesn't make it right. It's common for young, successful actors to be swayed into leaving the people of authority in their lives that have raised them, that are their best chance at somewhat of a normal semblance of life, to be around, well, people that were strangers up until a couple of years ago that now have a lot of influence over their career and potentially can sway them into doing things that they want them to do. Completely normal stuff, right?
And she wanted that for herself. So she turned to her team, which included her lawyer, her agent, her manager, her publicist, me, because she included me as part of her team, thought of me that way. We supported her. She tried to get emancipated. It ended up not working out, and she didn't.
Well, since we're here, let's stay here.
Now, how many times do you think when Amanda, the 16-year-old, essentially the child, the teenager, that was on the fritz with her parents, that maybe didn't understand that her parents who had been there probably knew her better, probably understood what to do in the situation and why she wasn't allowed to be an adult. And also, like a lot of people that are coming out now, maybe had a little bit more of an idea as to who Dan Snider was and the people he was employing. Because usually in a situation where a child is at odds with their parents and it somehow spills into the public, in this case because it's an actress and she's very public, the first thing that should happen is that there's a meeting with the parents and the child, not, hey, talk to me about what's going on with you and your parents so that I can help you get away from them? Nah, fuck you, bro.
There was also an incident where she had ran away from home, if you would. Can you talk to us a little bit just to clear the air of exactly what happened in that situation?
Yes. One night, it was very late, well after midnight, 1 or 2 in the morning. Phone rang. I answered. It was Amanda. She was in distress. She had had some conflict with her parents, I think her father, and she called me. I was immediately concerned about her safety. I called someone who I knew was fairly nearby. That person was able to go and pick her up. Then I knew she was safe. I felt better. She ended up being taken to the police.
Well, regardless of what some people may think, I think it's only positive that you are there for people when they need you. That said, let's talk about some of the things that have just been swirling forever.
Fucking piece of shit. This fucking guy right here, dude. I'll tell you this. The person that comes off the worst in this interview, surprisingly, isn't even fucking Dan. It's this guy, dude. GG to any sort of morals you had, family. What the fuck are you talking about?
False rumor.
What happened?
Add it to the list of false rumors.
Talk to me. What happened?
They were adult actresses at the time, and they had their own specific reasons for not wanting to do the show anymore. I'm not judging that. It got tense, and what they don't know, maybe, is I did everything I could. My producer partner at the time, we would call and say, this is not a good situation.
Okay.
So I decided I'm going to do what most showrunners do, which is, you're not on the set. There's a director there to shoot it. I'll go up to the writer's room. I'll work on the next script. But because everybody was so used to me caring about every detail of every show so much, for me not to be on the set, maybe some people thought I got banned.
So it was more of an assumption because this guy's usually here.
I don't give a fuck about none of this. You know what's funny is he went with one question about the important shit, right? The weird relationship you have with a minor and all the things that happen about Amanda being emancipated, running away from things. There's no follow-up questions. There's no details being asked. It's just from that. Let's now get into you getting kicked off your set.
And now he's not.
I don't know if it was an assumption. I don't know if somebody thought they were making me look bad by saying I got banned from the set. I have no idea.
Okay.
All I know is I was never banned from the set.
Yep.
Nice. Hey, solid question and answer there. Way to defend yourself there, dog. No one gives a single fuck about none of this, but hey, you stand on business when it comes to being banned from the set or not. Everything else that's gone on, all the shady stuff with, again, your relationship with kids and the people you employed and their relationship with kids and all of the working conditions of said kids and overtime and child labor, all that stuff. Let's get past that. Let's get to the point of the matter, okay? Why were you lied on about being kicked off your set? Stand on business.
The darkest part of this series discussed child predators. Now, I want to make sure that
let's get to it.
Clear a couple of things up.
Okay.
Brian Peck was not hired by you.
No, I did not hire Brian Peck.
This was a total...
Okay, buddy. Here we go. Here we go, right? We start off with this. Let's just get it out of the way right now. For everyone watching at home, I just want to establish where we're going to go with this. None of it is your fault. This is it. This is I love the reframing that we're getting.
Olin Robbins production?
Yeah. And when Drake and I talked and he told me what had happened, I was more devastated by that than anything that ever happened to me in my career thus far. And I told him, I'm here for you. What do you need? Which Drake mentioned in the show that we watched last night. And next, I heard that he went to court when this guy was being tried, Peck. And
this guy, Peck. This guy. When this guy was being tried, this guy that I have no idea about at all. This dude that I've never even met him. I never met the guy.
Drake walked in, he saw 50 people sitting on the side of the courtroom supporting Peck. A lot of them pretty famous. Of course, Drake was devastated that happened. And even more disappointing, 41 of those people wrote letters for Peck, character letters.
Scumbag shit. Scumbag shit. I will 100% say that. 100,000%. All the people that sided with him, all the letters, scumbag shit. But let's not do this thing where all of a sudden Dan Snider is the arbiter of what is scumbaggery and what isn't. You can't shift blame here, Danny. This is the look how bad they are, people. Look at how bad. They sat on that side. They wrote letters for look how bad they are. Not how it works, big boy.
Praising him for who he was and asking for leniency, and they knew that he was guilty. They knew he had confessed to some degree, and they still did this. That's baffling that adults would do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people know this, but Drake's mom, a lovely woman who I stay in contact with this day, she came to me at the time and she said, Dan, I'm not good with words like you are. And would you help me with my speech for the judge? And I said, of course. And I did. And he ended up going to prison and serving his time. And yeah, that was probably the darkest part of my career.
Shut the fuck up. I don't want these fake ass tears, bro. Shut your bitch ass up. These fucking crocodile tears. The fuck was that? The mom came to you and said, can you help with my speech? Because you're good with words. If this motherfucker was so good with words, how come he wasn't using them on these fucking scumbags back in the day? Or even up until now? Ain't nobody buying your shit, bro. Ain't nobody buying it. Fuck you.
And here's the kicker that I really don't get. After he got out of prison and was, to my knowledge, a registered sex offender, he was hired on a Disney Channel show. I don't understand.
But Dan didn't hire him. Let's make sure we remember that. Dan didn't hire him.
I don't understand.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that, man. Are you okay? You want to take a minute?
Yeah, I might.
Fuck you!
Yeah.
Take a minute! Shut your fucking mouth! You feel sorry for him? You want him to take a minute? You're delusional. You're so delusional. You're wrapped up in this fucking guy's, I don't know, disgust? I can't even call it charm. Guy's neck looks like fucking turkey fat. We're gonna talk about, take a minute. Fuck you, all of you, for putting on this song and dance of an interview and trying to babyface this guy and say, look over here, look over there at all the bad things all those other people did, and don't pay attention to the fact that I was involved in all of these things separately in some way, whether they were working under me, whether I had my own issues, whether I was the one that had weird relationships, or I spoke to people in a way that was not only degrading, but made them just leave work. Kids under my supervision were working past child labor hours. Like, what are we doing here, dude? Known about this for years and years, but all of a sudden now let's do an interview on it and apologize when I could have done that how many years ago? Fuck that.
I think we really unpacked some important things. We set the record straight on a lot of things.
No, you didn't.
Before I let you get out of here.
No, you didn't. You did not.
Appreciate the vulnerability that you use in knowing that there's definitely things that you would have and should have done differently. Is there anything that we haven't discussed? Anything that if you could go back and navigate the journey differently, what would that look like?
Yeah, there's definitely things that I would do differently. One that I think would be really, really important is when you're hiring young actors, minors, to work in television,
The fucking guy is about to explain to us, this is rich. This is rich. Now, again, there's something to be said for owning up to mistakes and trying to correct. But now this guy's going to get on his fucking high horse and explain to everyone else how business should be done after he fucking completely destroyed it. After he did everything wrong, go ahead and teach us. Show us.
There to oversee that process for the specific reason of making sure that those kids really wanted to do this job, that they really wanted to be on television. Yeah. Maybe they should even be informed about what that means. What's it going to mean if you're famous? What's that going to mean on social media? What's it going to mean within your family? Right. Let them find out. And then that way, if a kid doesn't want to be on a TV show, they can opt out.
If you don't want to be on my TV show doing shit that is far past, again, child labor laws and or fear factor for kids, maybe you're just not cut out for the business. 12-year-old, sorry. Sorry, you ain't cut out for it, fam. What? Dog. This is the guy wielding the hammer that has no idea that he's smashing a nail, right? He only knows how to be a hammer. So when it's brought to light, now he's going to continue to show you exactly what his actual mindset is. Like, oh yeah, here's something I would have done different. Tell the kids that they're not cut out for doing the stupid shit that I put them up to do in the first place.
That psychologist, that therapist could come to us and say, this kid doesn't want to do it, or their parents aren't understanding of what's going to come. And then we could avoid the mistake of ever putting a kid in a TV show that didn't want to be there.
None of the kids didn't want to be there. They didn't want to do things that kids shouldn't be doing.
And additionally, the main thing that I would change is how I treat people and everyone. I definitely at times didn't give people the best of me. I didn't show enough patience. I could be cocky and definitely overambitious, and sometimes just straight up rude and obnoxious, and I am so sorry that I ever was. And all right, when I watched the show, I could see the hurt in...
Forbesy has the best point, dude. Forbesy has the best point. My guy Forbesy in the chat. He's been doing it so long, he's normalized it to himself. 100%. It's like when you tell a lie, and that lie goes unchecked. Not saying that this is all whatever, but you continually build a story, a character, personality off of a lie. Before long, that lie to you becomes truth. That really happened to you, or that thing you really did, or that occurrence you really saw. And so finally, when the truth comes out and you still defend it, you look like such a fucking moron. And to yourself, yeah, no, this is great. This is not a big deal. This is what I would change, but still, no, dude, this shit happened. However you believe the thing went is not how it went. And however you've tried to abscond yourself from it, it's not gonna work now.
In some people's eyes, and it made me feel awful and regretful and sorry. I wish I could go back, especially to those earlier years of my career, and bring the growth and the experience that I have now and just do a better job and never, ever feel like it was okay to be an asshole to anyone, ever. Look, I wanted to make funny TV shows for kids, and we definitely did that. But if I could go back, I would get it done in different ways. I'd just be nicer and listen more to the people on my team. And I would do everything that I could to make sure that everyone had a good experience.
This man said, I'm glad we made funny TV. We definitely did that. Like, again, reinforces it. Like, we wanted to make funny TV. We did that at the cost of, I don't know how many children, man. I mean, you've seen it. Amanda Bynes is not even the same person. The person that was supposed to be close to him has lost her fucking mind. All these kids that thought to live up to whatever it was that they needed to be in this business had to impress this guy, Dan. And he sits up here 20 years later and was like, you weren't cut out for it, sorry. It's wild to see the justification and the rationalization from Dan Snider and the fucking smoothie guy from iCarly sitting over here having a good old boys time where they reminisce about the days where Dan did nothing wrong because he didn't hire the guy, or because he had producers or he had people above him take zero responsibility. Admit they regret stuff, by the way. What do you regret if there's nothing to be responsible for you? Nothing actually addressed, no quotes, no real answers to anything. These people don't control the discourse now. These little back holes and fucking shady areas they've hid for years, it's gonna come out, and it's starting to now. And I hope every single one of them gets exactly what they deserve.